All right, all right, all right. We didn't abort today. Today we're going to talk about, and what I mean by that, for those of you that don't know, this was scheduled as a live presentation. I was going to do it 30 minutes earlier. Unfortunately, I'm going to do the quick version. I cut it by 30 minutes, and I did that specifically because of noise that would have been in the background. So I wanted to give you guys a better experience, make sure everyone could hear. So had to postpone our start. I was contemplating putting it off. I got this text a minute ago. Please help me with my ISA stuff. I've been getting a lot of phone calls about people who need help with ISA. So here's what we're going to do. Before we get started, let me kind of let you know what you're here for. If you're here because I'm going to teach you guys how you can add an extra $200,000 from adding an ISA into your business. Now, the reason I think I'm qualified to do that is because I wrote a book called Inside Sales Predictability. I wrote this book in 2016. This was the first book that I wrote cover to cover. This book was selling anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 copies a month. And the great thing about this book, besides the fact that it almost netted over $800,000, it did it because I was going around at the time teaching people exactly what we had done, which at that particular time we were making 18,000 outbound phone calls a week, right? So imagine making 18,000 outbound phone calls a week. Imagine what you would learn over time. So today, what I'm going to do is two things. If you're not on my YouTube channel, okay, I want you to go right here to YouTube. You can watch this on YouTube right here, youtube.com/Mike Reese. Make sure you subscribe because I'm going to do the full walkthrough version of this, which is going to include a lot of giveaways. Like in the description, it'll be on target earnings, how to do compensation. I'll give you access to some hiring videos that I've created. Mainly the most important thing when you hire an ISA is making sure you have the right compensation model. So we'll break all that for you down, and I won't be doing that live on Facebook. So if you are watching on Facebook, make sure you go over to the YouTube channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, and you'll be notified when we drop these other pieces, which all of that will be dropping over the next week and a half. I do plan on dropping some more content tomorrow, specifically on ISA, but it will be specifically on the YouTube channel. So go check that out. Now let's get started. I'm going to share my screen here, and I do hope that everybody can see my screen. I am using a nifty little tool called StreamYard, and unfortunately, it's a lot better when you have dual screens. I'm not going to have dual screens. I'm going to go straight to my slides. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then I'm going to make sure that y'all can see my screen after I share it here in a second. So give me 30 seconds here. Let's go open up a Chrome tab, and let's do an application window. Here we go. Give me 1 second. All right. So you should be able to share see my screen here. I'm going to just double check real quick before we get too in the weeds. Make sure this is showing up right and everybody can see it. It looks like it is. After I share it, you can obviously hear me because I'm checking it. Give me 2 seconds. This is almost like a microphone check 1, 2. I'm assuming you can't see me. What's up, Dan Hillsman? Thanks for watching. Leave me a comment and some feedback. So first of all, let me give you a little bit of the backstory. I hired my first ISA. So I hired my first ISA my first year in the business. It was absolutely best thing I ever did for my business. That would have been back in 2003-ish. It would have been my first 12 months in real estate. So I hired my first ISA. Everything went great. It was the best hire. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you how you know when you have the right ISA. When you pay them double if they decided to leave. So there's a lot of misconceptions and things like that I'm going to address here. Again, I'm just trying to make sure that the actual video content is showing up correctly. And unfortunately, I'm lagging on the Facebook side. So So let's just talk. I'm going to assume that y'all can see. So let's talk about the traditional ISA model. So this is what I discovered when writing the book and when building up to making 18,000 outbound calls. I learned that there were two different models over my career. I had started with the traditional model, which is basically you have an agent. And what I would do, and this is what most people do, is they would give this agent outbound leads. You know, they would give them expireds, FSBOs. Now, before anybody knew what the auto dialer was, because no one was doing the auto dialer until we shot a YouTube channel in 2000, a YouTube video like this in 2005, where we had demonstrated a dialer named Mojo, and we've worked with, I think Storm Dialer was announced at one of our large events back in 2012 from Red X. So we've went through a lot of different dialers, but typically it was the prospecting that was done differently. What that means is people would go after specific outbound leads like expires and FSBOs. And that would be, you know, that's what you would have an ISA do, right? And what I want you to think about is, you know, whenever you do an ISA, you want to, for us, what we did, and this is what we did in our model, is we didn't just do, you know, prospecting. We didn't just have our ISAs do follow-up. We would actually have them do a demand generation strategy. And a demand generation strategy basically is this. It's when you decide that you're not going to. Can someone in the comments tell me if you can see my screen? Because maybe I'm doing this wrong. Maybe my screen isn't being shared right now. But a demand strategy is when you give an ISA, when you give them actual data, right? So an example would be getting every phone number in a neighborhood and then scrubbing that information. That would be a demand generation strategy. So I see that I'm not sharing my screen. And I should be now. All right. Let's see if that worked. All right. So the traditional ISA model, there's some pros and cons. I'm going to walk you through those. So in a traditional model, we have the pros is you have speed of response. You have capacity for outbound prospecting. You also, you can increase your contact rate, and you have a lower customer acquisition cost. You get consistency and conversion, right? The cons are capacity is dependent on marketing. So what that means is this. An ISA's productivity is elastic to the amount of leads that you provide them. Because one of the big mistakes you'll make when you're hiring an ISA is thinking that you have enough leads for them to call. And over time, you might, but you won't be able to scale, right? And so, and that's a blanket statement. I would say that most agents have limited capacity, and their capacity is dependent on their marketing. So think about, you know, you have an ISA in the traditional model, you're gonna be able to respond to your leads faster. You're gonna have capacity, meaning if you're using the traditional model where you're having them call expireds and FSBOs, well, of course, they're gonna get done with the expireds and FSBOs because there's gonna be a limit to that. There might be 400, and in a market like this, there might be 4. But as those go away, you increase capacity for them to call others. Again, you're gonna have a more contact rate, meaning if you put your ISA on unconverted leads, you're going to make contact with people that you wouldn't have otherwise made contact with, and that's going to help you over time. Again, a con is going to be limited and for outbound. So remember, you have inbound, which are leads coming in. Outbound, you're going to have limitations for outbound. On the traditional side, calling expireds and FSBOs, you have to have a high level of skill in order to overcome objections. And it requires a lot of hands-on training to get somebody plugged in, up and running and operating. Finally, it limits scalability. There's a low labor efficiency, and it can increase your customer acquisition cost. So that's just things to think about, right? So again, we're just talking about the traditional model. What I'm here to do is tell you guys how you can make an extra 250,000, maybe 200,000, maybe it's just 100,000, depending on who you are, right? But the only way to scale the traditional ISA model is to scale marketing, which absolutely is limiting the opportunity for people in the marketplace, because most people, now I was one of these individuals and I crossed over, but most people don't have the ability to invest in the ISA function and invest in a heavy lead generation function simultaneously at the same time to make sure that they get a return on their labor investment in that ISA. So what do? Well, we learned from a lady named Mary Lou Tyler. If you don't know her, she co-wrote a book called Predictable Revenue with Aaron Ross. And there was just a little tweak in the mindset. For her, she did a demand strategy where she actually helped Salesforce.com build its business up to its first $100 million in sales. And specifically, she did that focusing on obviously outside sales or inside sales agents doing outbound marketing, right? So the fundamental shift is you now have a predictable demand generation, which is important if your goal is, again, the goal here was creating predictability. I mean, in 2016, when we implemented this model, we were able to create 161 nurtures in January, which you don't know what that is now, but I'll just say what it is. A nurture is someone that said they were going to move in the next 12 months. We created 161, and 30% of them, a little bit more, but I'm rounding, were either on the market pending or had sold by the end of June. So a demand generation strategy is going to build that pipeline. It's a sales development process which builds the gap, right? It connects the chasm between sales and marketing. So if you think about that, you have marketing, you have sales, and we're trying to develop, we're using sales development. We're going out into, let's say, a database. Let's say you have an ISA. Who could an ISA call? An ISA could call leads. Well, the leads that are $8 a lead, we only have 1,000. That was $8,000. That puts out 90% of the agents that are going to invest $8,000 into lead generation, or if they do it in a shorter amount of time frame that they actually need someone to call them. Because if you invest $8,000 over 18 months, it's different than if you do it over 18 days, right? And so you have to have a consistent sales system because without consistency, you have no predictability. And the biggest impact on predictable revenue is the lowest hanging fruit is made by creating an outbound sales development team that focuses on prospecting. So if y'all didn't see the Inman report that was actually, I think, commissioned by Gary Keller, don't quote me on that, but I think he commissioned this research. They actually made 6,260 phone calls, contacted 1,778 people, which was a 28.4% contact rate. They set 19 appointments. And on those phone calls, when they spoke to somebody and somebody said, you know what, we're not really interested right now, they would ask a follow-up question. Well, do you know anybody that is? And in theory, that's how I interpreted it. That was considered a referral. Well, out of that data, here's what happened. They had 208 phone calls equaled 1 appointment or referral. 60 people contacted equal 1 appointment or referral. Assuming 50 calls per hour, 6 hours equaled 1 appointment. 2 appointments equaled 1 listing. So if you just take some really conservative assumptions here, let's assume that the average commission was $4,641, which we all know that that's low. That would equate to a return of $386 an hour. In order to make $1 million a year, you got to make $500 an hour. You can't make $1 million a year doing $20 an hour work. And so this gives you an idea from a revenue generating activity what that value is worth. So ISAs, again, if it were me, I'd have an ISA. ISAs can help build your brokerage because they can. Right now, I know of ISAs right now that are setting 4 to 8 appointments a day to meet with the broker, where these are opportunity meetings to move agents over to a new brokerage. So maybe you're in a business model where the broker compensates you for recruiting agents to your company. Well, an ISA, again, can help you with that. And so that's the things that, I'm wanting to talk about. I did mention at the beginning, if you haven't read Inside Sales Predictability, you can get a link to it. You can get a link to the book in this video, which is on my YouTube channel. And let's see if I can share that YouTube channel. It's pretty simple. The YouTube channel is going to be, nope, that ain't it. This is it. Here we go. YouTube.com/Michael Reese. If you go there in the description where I actually publish this video live right now. So we're streaming right now on my business page and on the YouTube page. On the YouTube page in the description, there is a link to get the copy of this book, Inside Sales Predictability. Again, if you decide that you're going to subscribe to that channel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you guys through all of the math behind the inside sales agent. I refer to them as ISA. Some people refer to them as inside sales agents. I think that's just the abbreviation, however you want to refer to them. Doesn't bother me. So let me go back to sharing my screen. We'll jump in a little bit more. I do have some, let's see, more to share here. So we'll make sure we click the old screen this time. And we'll have to get off that screen in order for you to get that. Oh, this is not good. Let's stop that screen share real quick. Bam. And we're going to try it again. All right. The fun part about being live. When you're live, oh, there it is. All right. So I don't know how I did that, but we're going to share the screen again. All right. Share screen. Here we go. This is all for Dan Hilsman. All of this just for Dan Hilsman. All right. So we went through the Inman report here. You know, there's a lot of things that I want you guys to understand whenever you're when you're growing your business. You know, for me, I spend a lot of money on direct mail. And so maybe I'd spend $2,000 and send out a postcard. Maybe it was a guaranteed sales postcard, buy your home for cash, whatever. Right. For me, the numbers look like this: $2,000 to send those out, get 10 leads, maybe a listing and a sale. That is a simple formula for customer acquisition. And the reason I want you to think about this is that a lot of people that I endorse, a lot of strategies that I endorse, a lot of people follow and implement are using, Facebook, Google, retargeting, stuff like that. For that, you might spend $2,000 and generate 100 leads, right? And so you might get 2 listings, 2 sales. That would be an example of a $1,000 customer acquisition cost. The thing about an ISA is, let's say an ISA works 12 hours, sets 2 appointments, 1 listing, 1 sell. The question is what's the customer acquisition cost? Well, the customer acquisition cost is going to be the labor efficiency ratio. How effective are you taking? How effective is your labor dollar, right? If you have an ISA calling $8 leads, then they need 1,000 leads, $8,000. The customer acquisition cost is going to be high. But if you give them data where they're calling data, which only costs you a penny, then obviously now we're talking, now we're cooking. So maybe you'll get that down to, let's say, like a $300 customer acquisition cost, because that's what we were seeing. And so for me, not that wasn't the only benefit, because it was more scalable. So with leads, I could go generate a lead tomorrow, and here's the con. I don't know if I run an ad on Facebook, if that person that sees that ad, I don't know if they live in a $600,000 house, $100,000 house, $10 million house, don't know. When you're calling data, you get to pick the address first. You get to pick the neighborhood you're going to target. So it gives you the ability to build predictable pipelines. And that's basically the caveat. So inbound listing lead generation would be something like this. Maybe you're running an ad for a home evaluation. Maybe you're out there putting door hangers, all of those things we did. But one of the things that I want to point out that's very important is that when we were running seller campaigns, we got a huge return. I mean, let me say this. It was very profitable for us, right? So in this scenario, Facebook seller campaign spent $263.49. We generated 116 clicks at generated $37. 24 people requested to contact, 8 selling within 12 months, 1 listing closed so far when the slide was made. Again, this is just an example. This is generating leads, but here's what you got to understand. 62% of all of our listings came from people who went to our landing page and did not become a lead, but submitted their address. When they were asked to become a lead, they didn't become a lead. So what did we do? We basically augmented that data record, went and got a phone number, just like we would do with an expired address. We took an address, got a phone number, and through there, we were able to generate not only a listing appointment, but we generated more listing appointments from the people who didn't give us phone number than the people that did. So that's just something for you guys to think about. Again, we'll go break this down, and I can tell you again how we targeted neighborhoods, what our turnover rates were, really get down into the nitty gritty, all of our assumptions, our models, which were, these were all based upon the seasonality curve, and we got real predictable, and we did use campaigns. We used campaigns there towards the end to increase our contact rate with our outbound leads, and then we would send them over to our agents. But again, if you want to learn more about how to hire your first one and understand what things and what to look for in that talent, then again, I'm going to be walking you guys through all of that, where you can get our on-target earnings, you can get our compensation model. I'll break all of this down for you, and there'll be a playlist on the YouTube channel specifically around the inside sales predictability. So if you haven't gotten the book, my goal for today was truly to just help everybody kind of get an idea. Originally was to get an idea of, can you make $250,000 a year? Can you increase, add an additional 200,000? I believe you can. I believe if you look at the math and you see what we did, which I will break the math down. In fact, I'll do that first. Here's my commitment to you. If you go over, subscribe to the YouTube channel, which you can do here, I'll break the math down, and I'll have that Friday. I'll have that video up either by end of day Friday or first part of Saturday at some point, and I'll walk you through the math on hiring an ISA. All right. So thanks everybody who stopped by. If you didn't get a chance to get the book, go over and check out the YouTube channel. There's a description where you can get a free copy of the book there in the description. When I say free, I think it's a plus shipping offer. But with that being said, I hope you guys are having a great day. I actually have an appointment that I got to get to, so I'm going to have to run. But if there's anything I can do or anything else that you would like to learn around ISAs, please leave something in the comments below. And y'all make it a great day. Take care.